Hello everyone. My name is Weather from the Summer School Discord, and I'm here to follow this game, following the Kalista and a mentoring review. So, like every time I do this, every fucking time, I'm gonna start with some win conditions. At the start of a game, thinking about what you need to do to win and what the enemy team wants to do to win helps you better plan and your style of play, how you're going to manage waves, how you're going to rotate, where you're going to need to be, maybe what you're going to build, stuff like that. As you go on, you're going to update this based on who gets fed and whatever, but having an idea when you start off is very important. So your team has a split push Garen. He gets really strong, or rather, he's strong early and mid, but late game he doesn't do a whole lot. Rengar, he's probably going to build the one-shot assassin version. Victor is just wave clear and some burst, and you guys are kind of like the sustained DPS and sustain of your team. And that makes sense, right? Of course. Their team, they got a Shen with map pressure, a Shyvana who's going to farm forever and pressure dragons, a Katarina who's going to be probably roaming on your ass the entire game, and a Xayah Lulu, which is going to be pretty hard to kill. Okay, so that's stuff that you already should basically know. But what does that really mean? And the understanding what not what these picks can do, but what the team wants to do with these picks is important. So you know that from probably level 4 Katarina onwards, she's going to be looking to roam bottom. She's going to be looking to come down here every chance she gets and kill your ass. The Shen, past his level 6, he's going to be looking for his TP roam or his ult roam. So you're going to have absolutely no kill pressure pretty much past their level 6, which is like 6 minutes into the game. You're not going to get anything done bottom, because they just have so much pressure on that side of the map that you're going to have to blow through the Shen ult, going to have to blow through all these Lulu, her ultimate, got to blow through the Xayah ultimate, gotta, get past a Katarina who's going to roam on you, and then you have only your Kalista damage because Soraka's not really going to be adding anything to that. So you're really not going to be able to do too much bot lane. That makes sense, right? Okay. But what should you be planning to do with this, right? You know you can't do anything past that point, but what exactly are these windows you need to watch out for? You know Shyvana is going to be wanting to do Dragon after pretty much her first clear. So starting around like 5 minutes, she's going to be looking to take this. And you're going to need to try and keep either lane pressure, which you're not going to be able to really do this game because it's really tricky to keep lane pressure when someone wants to TP on you and someone wants to roam on you. But you're going to need to keep vision. Unless you want to just hand over the dragons, which, against the Shyvana is not necessarily something you want to do, both because you're handing over dragons and it's a Shyvana. Shyvana can solo these pretty easily too. Past like her first recall and item, she does it really efficiently. So keeping vision on this is important. Vision over here would also catch the Katarina roam out early enough. If you position the wave around the middle, you should be pretty safe. Because just with this river ward at Dragon, and just with managing your wave to here, you're going to prevent them from being able to kill you in most cases. They're going to go on you, and then the Soraka heals you, or they're going to go on the Soraka and you ult her away after a point. So this should be plenty enough space for you to run back to turret. If you're pushing up to try and keep control of Dragon, you're going to get roamed on or you're going to get TP'd on, and there's not enough space for you to run back. Like, there's too much. Okay, so that's what's going to be happening past, like, your level 4, basically. But up until there, you have a pretty reasonable lane. Soraka's 1, 2, and 3 are pretty strong, and that's where you're going to have to press your lead, or press a lead if you wanted to try and get it. Looking for those early trades before Xayah can set down feathers, hopping out of the way of her feathers, and looking for those Ren stacks when you get them up. That's really where you're going to create a lead. If this is just left to a poke or wave clear lane, they're going to win. They're going to win. You need to figure out how to force a trade against this, but you need to make sure you're doing it where the wave stays about here. Depending upon what the Xayah does, if she just pushes the wave, that's going to change how you have to play. Oh my god, come on. Okay, this has happened the past like 10 games that I've reviewed. Whenever you get out of, like, the game starts, you need to be providing vision. You need to be securing your jungle. What you're doing right now is you're AFK for the first, like, 40 seconds of the game. It doesn't matter that you left base if you're just sitting at this turret. So easy to sit over here and provide vision. It's really easy to sit over here and provide vision. Do you see their ping even fucking was on that? Do you see where their team is? You could have seen this. You could have spotted this out. You could have prevented them from invading. You could have prevented this just by fucking yourself. And instead, you decide that you just want to sit under tower. This isn't going to help you win a game. Yeah, great example. This is an excellent example of this is entirely your fault that they counter jungle this, which means your jungler is not going to hit 6 at the same time the enemy jungler is going to hit 6, and he's also going to be behind an XP or to contest Dragon. He's not going to be 6 on his first clear where it ends up to gank top, which is what he planned on doing, I guess. Since he started top, his level 6 would be top and his second clear. But that means that he's not going to have his gank opportunity until even more camps. So he's getting put a significant amount behind here. A significant amount. And you could have secured this just by standing here and warding here and making it so that way maybe your team collapsed on this and maybe you found some kills. And whenever they walk to lane like that, you see how they walk to lane over here? This means two things. This either means their jungler started topside and they were trying to cheese you in these bushes, very likely, or they started with an invade. Judging by the map over here, I would have guessed that the Shyvana actually started topside because their top laner is not trying to push this. And I would have expected they were just going for a cheese. So I wouldn't have known that they were going for this invade. But you usually can tell what the enemy is doing by where their people start, right? If they're getting a leash or not. Most of the time, people get a leash. Your level 1's not bad. You got to the wave early and you started shoving, but your wave is at a good spot to use a level 2 spike. It's not a great spot, but it's a good spot. They're close enough to make it so that way you can put a lot of damage on them, but the way you're kiting here means you're not aiming for that level 2 spike. You're way too far away to zone with your level 2. You need to be stepping up a lot more here, like what the Soraka's doing. Do you see what the Soraka's doing? She knows you're about to get level 2, but you're way too far back to do anything with it. And okay, you're not even trying to do anything with it. You seriously do need to add that to your thought process. So far there's two easy things to fix, right? Warding or providing vision by standing here and watching it. Don't just tab away once you do that because you would have died to the invade. But you put your team behind by not doing this. All right. The second thing is using your power spikes. Your level 2 right now, you're not doing anything with it. You manage the wave in an okay way to make it so that way you could do something with it, but you then position yourself in a way where you can't. See, this is a good demonstration of how far up you are in XP right here. You're 3 minions up in XP, right? By the time they kill all 3 of these, you've already killed 2 of theirs. And then they have to kill, like, all 3 of your melees to get that level 2 themselves. There's no way they do that, they beat that. But your positioning, after you clear, like, 2 of these, needs to be stepping up a lot more. If they choose to fight you here, that's where you could create a serious advantage because they're going to have to use a health potion if they try and fight back. Because you're just going to have more abilities and more stats. Just your Q, right? If you had your Rend and your Q, that would probably let you dodge something, but let's assume it doesn't dodge anything. Just because of the spear and the extra Ren stack, you've already gotten like 80 extra damage on them, and you probably have like 50 extra health at the start of the fight just from leveling up, and your base stat is like 5 AD stronger or something like that. So every auto you do just increases that advantage. So from the very get-go of the fight, you have essentially 150 extra health, right? And that's 150 health they can't trade back because they don't have that ability yet. They don't have the way they can't. And if you're not trying to do anything, you're not using that power spike, then you're putting yourself not necessarily behind, but in a less a worse position to carry. You're putting yourself in a worse position to carry because you're not actually creating a lead. This is a window where you could have created a lead, and instead you just pushed it into their turret and let them get level 2 on their own. All right, all right. I'm gonna do a little lesson here because this was a really good time to trade, but at the same time a very bad time to trade. So two things that have happened here. First, what makes it a good time to trade is what you see over here. For some reason, you have a really good ward over here, and you see this. You see Shyvana, which means you're not going to have anyone in your lane. No one's coming to your lane, so it's just 2 versus 2. Now, why is it a bad reason to trade? So this is your good reason to trade. Here's a very good reason. Yes, go in because it's a 2v2. But if it's a 2v2, you need some other advantage because right now you're in the exact same playing field. And what makes this a bad trade happens in a second. And I want you to watch over here. Do you see this? If you didn't see that, let's watch it again. You take a 2v2 where you have currently no advantage, and beyond that, you put yourself at a disadvantage. You have no advantage here because they have all of their cooldowns that are important. They have the same amount of health as you. They probably have the same amount of sustain as you because fucking Relic Shield meta garbage. But she doesn't have it. Never mind. You don't have it either. All right. I love you guys. It's going to be gone in a patch anyways, so it's not like it's really a bad thing. I think the meta is fine. It's just a lot of sustain, annoying amount of sustain. But anyways, so you're going for this trade, and at this point you should have just backed out because minion aggro. So whenever you were putting this trade, going down for this harass, you thought you had a good window here to trade, right? Well, they still have all of their abilities, and you just used half of yours. You already used your Q. Soraka's way over here. So there's even a third disadvantage because she can't trade on them while they both can trade on you. Lulu's Q range is enough to get here, especially after she shields this person. So what you do here is you take a trade in the minion wave, far away from your support, so you accept not a 2v2, but a 1 versus 2.5 because the minions. Good reason to trade, you found the Shyvana. Bad reason to trade, you're at a numbers disadvantage. You got the 0.5 here, because you're fighting in their minion wave. You got the 2 people here, and Soraka's way over here. Soraka's not going to be able to land a Q from over there, especially if they're kiting back. That's out of range. She's going to be able to heal you, but she's only going to be able to heal you after maybe 2 seconds of running to you. Yeah. Great. That's a good example, though, because you deserved this death. And it's because you weren't understanding any advantage in this lane. Uh, it's a little unfortunate that, you were running double heal. If you had Ignite in this situation or Exhaust or something, yeah, it would have been a little bit different. But that wasn't really the deciding factor. That was a lot of disrespect from the Xayah. She should have just walked out. Okay, so here's another lesson. Moments ago, you just saw the Shyvana and the Katarina poke their heads out over here. Katarina's probably going to recall and then go back mid because this wave is pushing and she was half-life. But Shyvana had no real reason to recall here. And the Lulu is still pretty strong. She may be holding this wave, but this wave is in a pretty dangerous position. Because if I was Shyvana, I would be looking to do this dragon, which means I would be hovering around this side of the map for a little bit longer. Has she shopped yet? Oh, she hasn't shopped yet. Maybe she's going to recall too. So they're probably both going to recall. But anyways, what I'm saying is pushing up this far to try and bounce this wave is very risky. If you're going to do this, the first thing you need to do is get vision over here. That'll give you at least 1 extra second of running away. And since you don't have any summoner spells, even if you had this ward over here, you'd probably die. So I probably wouldn't even want to be going up for the CS. I would just let it bounce. Okay. Interesting. So this is really, really good. Right around whenever I told you the game was going to become challenging for you, whenever they were like you were hitting level 4, that means that they're about to hit their 6s. And you're letting the wave push into you. I see that you stop autoing the wave blindly. This is a really good play. By letting the wave come into you, and the way you have it set up right here, assuming you don't just spam push it now. Interesting. Your trading patterns are pretty bad. So whenever you're going in for trades, you're not respecting cooldowns is the biggest thing. Because whenever you go in for this, there's nothing that the Xayah needs to do. The windows to trade that you look for, the big three are what minions do they have to last hit. So if the Xayah is looking to last hit this one, she can't auto attack you because she's autoing the minion. That's the first one. The second window is what do you have to do on the minion wave? Do you need to last hit something? If so, you can't trade because you should be using your resources to last hit. It's not worth it. If you're taking trades over last hitting, then you're going to lose out in farm anyways. It's really quick it's amazing how quickly you'd fall behind by doing that. And the third thing is cooldowns. So the third thing being cooldowns, you don't seem to be paying attention to that at all. Whenever you go in for these auto attacks, you just got your last hit there. You know the Xayah does want this CS, but there's nothing that's going to deny this CS, so she can just wait for it. There's nothing hitting it. So the only thing she has to hit at this point in time is you. Now, if you're going in for a trade like this, the only real battle that you have is a battle of sustain. Because you're both going to throw damage at each other, and it's not going to result in anything other than both of you taking chunks of damage. Now, I don't think either of you are actually running fleet footwork this game. I'm not sure if I can tell that. I'll pay a little bit of attention to it. But you do have a Soraka. You notice how quickly you have to back out of this because he would have been rooted? So the only thing you got off here was one auto attack. One auto attack, and you pull the minion wave, so now it's going to push to them. But the Xayah is hard pushing it, so it doesn't push to them. These are not good health bars for going under turret. You got to get those when they're free, man. Free one again that you lost. You've lost 3 free CS there, which means you should spend some time practicing your CSing. Uncontested CS you should never miss. You should never miss uncontested CS. Contested CS is a different story because sometimes you need to conserve health for other reasons. And you always need to let it bounce into your tower, whatever. But when it's free and you miss it, you're putting yourself more behind than you'd realize. So you need to spend a little bit of time CSing. You need to pay attention to your level 1, which you completely ignored your jungle and put him behind. And it may not feel like that's your fault. Like, you didn't die there, right? You didn't die during the invade because the jungler was topside, so you didn't need to be here. That's your logic. That's not good logic because you didn't protect it. All you had to do was be here and provide vision, and then the team would have known that they were invading, and Rengar could have adapted. Either he could have chosen to come bottom and contest their stealing of his blue buff, or he could have invaded their blue buff. Whatever it is, it could have helped your team adapt. But without knowing that it happened, your team can't do anything. And you put your team at that disadvantage. The next thing, you need to look into your trading patterns and your power spikes. Those are lane mechanics, but a lot of this game is laning. And this is where you can create a big lead for yourself, which will give your team something to play around. Since your trading patterns aren't respecting cooldowns or really looking at the big 3, you should start, I guess, looking at those things when you're going to trade. And then you really got to make sure you're using your level 2. There are a lot of ways you have to worry about using your level 2. For example, you don't want to push your wave too far, but you need to make sure you hit it first. And whenever you're about to hit it, you need to zone with it. And whenever you hit it, you need to go in. Because, again, if you're paying attention to those big 3, you have more cooldowns than them because they haven't leveled up in ability. That's the same thing as them blowing it. And you also have already shopped, essentially. You've just recalled and got more items. You were stronger than them because you have more base stats. Big 3, jungle level 1, power spikes, and your CSing. Okay, here's another good window. This is actually a good trade, and let me explain why. This is something that was kind of reverse of what happened earlier. So, okay, that part of the trade was just free damage. You got a good Q off. A Q doesn't usually mean very much as Kalista. But do you see what the Xayah is doing over here? Do you see how far apart they are? The way that this fight would play out if you went in, just knowing the way different champions work, right? The Xayah's feathers are going to line up in a way that she will never be able to root you because of her current positioning. She will never be able to root you. You're not chasing her, you're chasing Lulu. So, that's one thing. Xayah's kit is a little bit reduced here. The second thing that's going to be a big thing is, okay, resources. This is something that's a bit different than cooldowns, and this is like a fourth thing when it comes to trading. She's already low health, which means that she, it's the same thing as level 2. You have more base stats. This is essentially a power spike. And then what's next? Look up here. Because this is happening, Shen's not going to be able to TP down there. He's busy. Katarina is dead. And I don't know where the Shyvana is, honestly, right now. She could be any fucking where because, she probably should be showing up to this, but she also could be soloing Dragon. If I was the Shyvana at this point in the game, I'd probably be soloing Dragon because, this fight in my mind is over already. And you guys are not in a good position to gank. So I would be over here doing this Drake. Is that what she's doing? No, she's showing up to that fight. So, okay. This is a good trade because you see all of your threats post level 4, right? Whenever I was saying your win condition was pay attention to this stuff, none of this is going to be affecting you. And then the final thing that this is good with is, remember what I was talking about with how your support was able to trade with you? It was over here, it was a 1 versus 2.5. Over here, it's a 2 versus 1. Because if the Xayah trades onto you guys, she's got to walk in first. You at least get 1 free auto off by doing this, and then you could kite further away, which means you probably get 2 autos off. So by their positioning, Xayah can't do her route. The Lulu is going to be taking at least 2 autos from you before the Xayah can trade with you, and Soraka can support you. This trade has a lot of very good things going on, and you need to be able to put this into all of your plays. This is what you look for when you're trading. The map, positioning in lane, resources. And then if you're looking at minion advantages, that's not a lot that's going to be hitting you. If they decide to fight you here, you're going to have more minions actually attacking them than are going to be attacking you. So this is a very, very good time to be trading. And you need to recognize what this is, what does this, so you can do it in all of your trades. See that? 2 free auto attacks before anything happens. And now, if you're looking at positioning again, well, there's 2 here and there's 1 here. Okay. So that's something else. You're not paying attention to cooldowns. You just saw, well, something else in a different way. I know I just said cooldowns with like the big 3 and I was ranting about that for a while. But summoner spells are different. So you just saw her flash, and right here, right, she flashes. You had a very good opportunity to chase this with your... Oh, no, you don't have flash? I guess that was a bug. It showed that you had flash earlier. I must have rewind or something like that. Because you used flash at the start of this? Is that what happened? Oh, yeah, that's what happened. Never mind. Yeah, because you used flash over here? What? Okay, no, that's just a bug in the replay. Never mind. I have no idea what's going on. If you had flash, you should have flashed for that. But since you don't have flash because I can't see it, then totally fine. But you do need to keep track of summoner spells. So learn the timers for summoner spells. I typically just go by feel. I don't actually know what the summoner spell cooldowns are. I typically judge it by, I think that flash is around like 5 minutes, and I think exhaust is around like 3 minutes. Ignite's the same thing, heal's the same thing, somewhere around there. I don't actually fucking know. But I go by feel. You need to work on your dives as well. So whenever you're trying to zone out here, you don't need to dive. But what you do need to do is pressure her off the wave. By the way you start this, you're not able to go in because you start with a Q. You have to back off after that. If you had just let the minions come in, you could have just fucking walked at her and used your hops to chase her down and kill her. She has no flash. But because you start with your Q, you would take turret aggro that entire time. You would have walked up to about here without any turret hits, and then you would have just fucking killed her. So what this is I don't even know. It's just diving. This is like the first time I've actually reviewed like not knowing how to dive. It's a zoning mechanic. It's you could have just walked up without having to worry about this, like what you're doing now, but even earlier. The Soraka's doing it by herself. Do you see this again? The Soraka, come on, this Soraka is amazing. Like twice now, she's done the like perfect thing. She's like waiting for you now. It's not perfect. She needs to fucking just take that kill. Yeah, there we go. Good Soraka. Good Soraka. Props to you. Honor the Soraka. If she dies here, that's your fault because you should have taken that kill yourself. Oh, if you get another free kill, then this is just honor the Soraka. All right, and you should die. Go die. Good. Wanted to give it to the Lulu and not the Shyvana. Shyvana scales a little bit better with items. A little bit, a lot of it. Okay, so far you've got your level 1, which is a very common problem that needs to fucking get lost. Like, fix this. Fix this so easy. Fix this so easy. Your power spike with level 2, you don't zone with it. You do have a good wave management up until that, but you don't use your level 2 correctly with zoning. You need to work on your dives. You didn't do this properly. You could have used that same zoning mechanic to walk the fuck up to them and then start autoing them, use your jumps and kill them with just all by yourself. Super easy, super easy. Your lane trades, you have a mixture, which makes me think that you just go for random trades and you don't really think too much about what it is that makes it a good trade. You just are thinking that, oh, I hit something, I'll go in. You need to be thinking about what makes it a good trade. And I've been explaining it this whole time. You have really good respect for map pressure, but I don't know how much of that is intentional or not. I really don't. If it's intentional, then very good job. If it's not intentional, then make it intentional. You also need to work on your CSing. CSing is something that's super basic. You shouldn't be missing these free CS, and that comes with practice, but you need to make sure you practice it. And if it's that you're not paying attention, you need to fucking pay attention. Like, what can I say? And that was yeah, very good suicide here. Clean up on the Lulu. Okay, this is good. This is good. Whenever you have at least enough awareness to come to this fight, your wave is at a good spot. Um, but this fight right now, you're at a very bad position to show up to this fight. So yes, it's a good idea to show up to this fight, but this is not AD carry positioning. This is not AD carry position at all. This is assassin positioning. This is like Alawi positioning or something like that, because you're flanking them. And you're flanking them when you know they're at like full health. Because you just saw the Xayah over here walk over, so they're pretty much at full health. And you have one trinket. Okay, you have one trinket. If I was coming at this angle, if you really insist on flanking them, which I can't see you doing that, you really shouldn't be doing that. You're going to ward over this wall and hope that they're going to kite back while you walk to your team. That this would give you vision to know whether or not you take the fight, and if they're kiting back, and if they come to you, then you need to get the fuck out of dodge because you're just going to lose that fight straight out. This is good. This is what you want to do. That was very supportive of you. This is an awareness issue though. How interesting. I'm guessing you rended too early? Why are you not rending those kills? Let's check. It shows that your rend's up. Oh, there you rended. Okay. So yeah, you misjudged your damage a little bit. This fight was weird in a couple of different ways. So realistically, they should have gone back in on you. And not all of them, but the Xayah and the Lulu. But if you see what they're doing, the Lulu goes in on you by herself. I'm not reviewing this for them. I'm reviewing it to say that you took a very risky it was a very risky decision to do this. And because they could have start trading onto you. If you look at who can show up to this fight, yes, the Victor can potentially come back if the Soraka heals a lot, but the Rengar really doesn't want to come back into this, even though he's half-life. So if they traded onto you with the Xayah root and stuff like that, because they were already setting down feathers, this could have ended badly. Now, of course, I'm not saying don't make plays, because this ends up going pretty well for you, but I'm just explaining why this went well for you. This decision over here to come to your team first was very good. Then if the Soraka followed you in instead of, I don't know what she was doing immediately, like she's AFK over here, like, okay, that explains a lot. This explains a lot, actually. So if the Soraka walked over, that would have been an excellent play, but you were just going in alone, which is what made it risky. I didn't even notice that. Okay, but this is a little bit of judging your damage. You need a... I don't know exactly how to say to learn that. Kalista stacks are pretty complicated, and then of course resists are annoying and whatever else. You end up getting one kill, but you should have killed them all. And then you get a death. And do we get another death? Yeah, you get another death. Ooh, maybe not. Then again, that damage. Okay. So yeah, I would spend some time looking at damage. One of the ways you should be able to do this is count your auto attacks. I think that's the biggest thing you can do to help you know when to rend. Counting your auto attacks. Check, see how much damage your rend does. Read the ability, and then count how many you put in them. And if you want to, spend some time in the trainings thing, whatever it is, practice tool, and test how much damage you do with 2 stacks, 10 stacks, whatever. But get an idea of it because you're going for these executions, and you're missing out on it by 1 auto attack, which means you're not judging your damage well, which probably is because you're not counting. It's like Twisted Fate's, deck of cards. Whenever you're switching through those, you kind of, if you were playing Twisted Fate in this situation, you just insta-lock whatever card comes up because you're panicking. That's kind of what it feels like you're doing. Because you have that kill secured. You have that gold card in your kit. It's right there. But you don't pay attention to the cycle. You're not counting. You're not watching those ticks. But I did really like your positioning coming over here, and the only reason this was a bad play was because I didn't see the Soraka coming to help you, and she should have been coming to help you. So you did a fine thing over here. This was a great decision, but it was only a good decision if the Soraka came. The way you were going at it alone was risky. Interesting. Okay, this is really bad right here. This is really bad. On a macro sense, remember what I was saying earlier? Like a lot of the time, I've said it like probably 5 times already. Shen and Katarina. And of course, Shyvana's going to want to play around here. This is way later than I would have taken Dragon. Of course, I cheated and saw them ping it earlier, so I know that they're on it. But people are down here. People should be down here. And more people can come down here. Shen has R. And what does that mean? It means that you're in a terrible position. You're pushing too hard when you have all of these things that can come and kill you. Which means you're not aware of the map. And if you're not aware of the map, then that means that those earlier trades when I was pointing out the Shyvana over here and pointing out the fight over here, it means you probably weren't paying attention to those either. This is bad awareness because this is bad tracking and bad win condition knowledge. You know these people are going to come to your lane. You know what they want to do. You know the Shyvana wants Dragon. You know Shen wants to ult bottom. You know Katarina wants to roam, and these minions are on the fucking tower. So where does she have to go? She can go bottom. She can kill you. She can kill you really easily. Like over here, Soraka saved you. Doesn't mean she can save you here if there are 5 people. So what does this mean that you do? Well, for starters, look at your vision. Now tell me you understand what this means. It means you can't play up because you don't know where they are. You know a way you can fix this? Well, if you use your trinkets correctly, you can put them out in ways that would help you guys. I don't know if this is your trinket or not, but if it is your trinket, this is a ways to trinket with the way you're playing this lane. If it's the Soraka's ward, then maybe you don't gift her or honor her. I'm just kidding. But yeah, this ward isn't going to help you the way you're playing this lane. While you, in the meantime, have no idea if they're roaming, you have no idea if they're ganking you, you have no idea if they're doing dragon. You have no way of knowing that. You only have assumptions. And you need to use your assumptions because right now, with the way you're playing, you're not. You're suiciding if you're using my assumptions. This just means you're not using any assumptions. It means you're not playing to win conditions, and who pings the missing? Hell yeah, look at this Soraka. Oh my god, she knows exactly what's happening. She doesn't step up, which baits you to come back. She's standing way back here because she knows that the Lulu is baiting. And she knows that means they're on Shyvana. And she doesn't have a ward because she rushes some other random shit. This is, oh my god, a Soraka, I love you. That's perfect. This is exactly what you wanted to do for the 3rd time. Great patience coming back here. Even the dragon sound came through, so you know Shyvana's down here. After about like 30 seconds, Shyvana's on the top side of the map because she'll have nothing to do over here. So now 30 seconds is over and you can play aggressive. However, why can you play aggressive? 30 seconds is where you're predicting the enemy jungler will be. After she does dragon, she's either going to do her camps and then recall or do her camps and work her way up. She's working her way up, right? Or she just recalled. Where is she now? Oh, that was very wrong. Woo! Very wrong. I would have died here. But anyways, if I was the Shyvana, I would have been working my way up. She must be really trying to force this gank because you have a great lead. So this is going to be potentially a good play by her, but a sneaky play. I'm just playing off of assumptions because you have no vision. These are my assumptions, and I can be wrong. You know, I don't win every game. But if you have nothing else to go off of, you only have your assumptions. So you need to know what you need to guess and predict what they're going to try and do. Your guess here is better than mine, apparently, because you're playing this very far back. Ooh. Ooh. Yep. Yep. Interesting. So, that's another trading pattern thing. And I'm going to go back through it just once, and I'm going to point out what it is, and you're going to know what it is immediately, right? Of course you know what it is. The Xayah rooted you. But why did the Xayah root you, right? Why? That's what you need to be focusing on, because every play has setup that comes to it. Every play is not the one flash or the, you know, R or whatever. It's not one thing. It's the setup for it. Do you see this? Do you see this? You're standing still. Not only are you standing still, but as she's casting her Q, you don't kite away from it. The third thing, you just see her use her abilities, right? So you're going in. Well, if your assumption earlier was Shyvana was here and that's why you were playing safe, you really don't want to go in there. If you were just playing safe for some other reason, then yeah, maybe you'd go in here, but you'd start this off at a disadvantage. You'd start it off at a disadvantage just because their minions, if you're going to chase them into their minion wave, they have a lot of minions. That's the disadvantage here. Not the cooldowns. Cooldowns, Xayah typically builds a lot of CDR. She's got 10% so far. Her E is going to be back up in like 7 seconds. So that's enough time for her to last this and throw out an R and potentially do a lot of damage to you. So a lot of minions to do a lot of damage and enough survivability to do a lot of damage. That's the play setup. You then decide to save your Soraka by suiciding. If I was the Soraka, I would leave here. This is... Come on, Soraka. No, you're going to die. No, Soraka. Overstayed. Alright, alright. Well, there's a couple of reasons, I guess, why they're still at this rating. Whatever rating this is. Overstaying. That was a really easy dive. And because of your positioning earlier, by not respecting Xayah's, you know, root potential, by going in there, you ended up losing your tower. And if you want to think about, like, what does that mean? It means this. Do you see the gold right here? Keep watching it. Keep watching this gold. You already know what's going to happen. But just put a number to it. See what happens here? 1,000 behind. And now look what happens to inventories. Like, okay, they're all recalling here, right? Oh, I guess the Lulu's needs some gold. Xayah just got her BF. This guy just finished his sated. Is that what he did? Yeah, junglers completed their item. So now they have so much more kill potential. They have so much more gold on the map. And they have so much more to work with. Because whenever you have bot turret down, if you're playing any AD carry that can rotate, Vayne can't really siege, but sometimes she can rotate depending upon the enemy team. You then rotate, and then you cause havoc for other lanes. Because this turret is gone, they have more space to slow push the wave. That means that they can go top, they can send Shen bottom, and they can start pushing for another turret, which means this happens all over again. This is not one flash. This is the setup. The setup was you not moving, essentially. You just giving them that route. Whenever you're playing against Xayah, you always have to walk to the side. If you stand in one place, she's got a route on you. That's an easy mechanic to play against. It's just something you need to be aware of. Interesting. So this is a good rotation, but it's a rotation that's not going to do anything. You're just catching the wave and preventing them from taking the turret right now. You're giving Xayah time to push bottom, and she's going to crash this against the turret, which means that there's not a whole lot that's going to be done here. If the Victor comes back mid and you walk back bottom, you're then going to start pushing this wave out, and then nothing happens again, right? Doing this is fine. But you have to leave here. You're missing out on all of this. Okay. So, problem over here. You just take fights. This is a very common problem as well, and it's something that you should start adding to your kind of checklist whenever you're taking a fight or thinking about where you're going to go and stuff like that. You always need to be thinking about what you're going to get or what you can protect them from getting, like defend, what you can defend. In this situation, you have nothing left to really defend mid. It's just a fucking Lulu, right? You don't know where the Katarina is right now, and you decide to go top lane through darkness for starters. This is another kind of risky thing. You had at least some wards over here, and you decide to go top lane because you think you're going to get an objective, right? Right? That has to be your decision. That has to be why you're doing it. Otherwise, you're not making a good decision. It's not a good decision if you're not getting anything out of it. Kills do not mean shit. They are nothing. They are absolutely nothing. Because, answer me this. Whenever you just kill the enemy team, what does that mean you do? Right? What does that mean you do? You group somewhere and you push a lane. And you start getting turrets. And then you get an inhibitor. And then you get their base, right? Right, okay. Well, getting kills means you get more money, which means you win the next fight. Well, what happens after you win the fucking next fight? You group mid, or wherever, and you take turrets. And then you take another turret, and you take an inhibitor, and then you take their base. Kills don't mean shit. Kills mean nothing. If you can get an objective, get an objective. If you're going to take a fight, think about what objective you're getting from it. If you take a fight somewhere and you lose an objective for kills, like my bias here perhaps, but simply put, you're an idiot. This point in time, you're probably thinking you're going to, save the Garen, right? That's why you're coming up here. He's getting ganked. Well, then, if you're following my logic, right, what can they get after this? Assuming that the Garen sees the Shyvana and starts running down, they're not going to get anything. Even if they group top and they were pushing this lane, you'd be able to get here in time, or someone would be able to. The Victor, the Rengar, whatever, because it's going to take them a minute to do this. And they're not going to have minion waves. Look at the minions right now. These are red. Red are your minions. So whenever you're going up here to protect the Garen, even if the Garen dies here, you don't lose anything. And that's a big way of deciding what you should do. Now, what could you get, right? I told you that your mid lane rotation was okay because you were just catching the wave. Bot lane, though, would be the same rotation. It's okay, and you're just catching the wave. And what does this mean? You know, you get gold, which means that you win the next fight, which means you get the kills, which lets you group for objectives. If you don't get this gold, you're not getting the kill, right? That's the same thing as getting a kill. It's literally the same thing as getting a kill. In essence, in reference rather to what you can do your next fight, and then get after that fight. That's what that's what the CS is. That's what it is. That's what it means. That's what it matters. That's why this kind of rotation is good, but doesn't do anything. It's just a kill. And you decide to go for the kill, and every team fight, every kill is a coin flip. Because there's just as much of a likelihood that you're going to get outplayed as you're going to outplay them. Unfortunately, that's generally the case. Unless you're like massively better than who you play against, but you're eventually going to get to your current rating, or not current rating, but like your, I don't know, mechanics rating. And then the only way you're going to beat people is with strategy. So if you take a strategical fight, it doesn't matter if you misplay because you don't have to. You have an advantage somewhere. So that's what all of this is about. This isn't about mechanics. This is about creating those advantages. And you decide to go for the coin flip, which you lose. Now, for this situation, you have a disadvantage here that I kind of talked about briefly. You don't know where the Katarina is. You have no vision over here. You know the Xayah was just bottom, so obviously Xayah is not going to be here. But Katarina's probably here. If I was Katarina, I'd be looking for this kill. She's over here right now, but she could easily go over here. Now, if you were playing as like a 5-man pre-made or something like that, and you decided that the Rengar was going to go catch bot wave, then your team as a whole ended up with the same amount of resources, so it's not bad. But you should be still trying to do this, or at least ping it, or tell someone to go get it, or whatever. Got to make sure you're paying attention to these things, because this is exactly what you went mid for. This is exactly what you went mid for. And there's your coin flip. Looks like it was tails this time. But this is kind of what I want to explain. And now, what do all of these kills mean? If it was just the Garen, it's a different story. But kills mean you get an objective uncontested. Your ability to contest is basically with how many people are there and what they need to be doing or where they are on the map, right? Right? Yeah. This guy, even if he wanted to, he can't defend it alone. He can't contest this alone. They'll just dive him. It's the same thing as the Soraka dying down here. It's the same thing. But if there were like 3 of you over here, they can't do jack shit. And you went for the fight. You went to try and protect the Garen. Proxy Singed works for a reason. Because it doesn't matter if he dies, because they have no minions to work with. Now, obviously, he gives them more gold and stuff, but what do you do with that gold? You know, when you win the next fight, maybe. But if you never have the ability to capitalize off of those deaths, it doesn't matter if you die. Not telling you to fucking suicide. Don't suicide, because that does make you less likely to win the game. It also tilts your team a bit. But I'm giving you an idea of you should let your team die sometimes. Trying to show up to that fight ended up with another lost turret. So far, you could have defended both of these turrets and prevented probably like 4 deaths or something like that. And you're pretty much, with those 2 decisions, all of your gold deficit. With those just 2 decisions, you are all of your gold deficit, which means you're less likely to win the next fight, which means you're more likely to lose more objectives, which means you're further behind in gold, which means that you've probably, you know, if they play it correctly, they've probably won the game. So this is good, but also bad. It's good because you saw that people were middle. It's bad because you don't see everyone middle. You're making assumptions here, and I agree with your assumptions, but they're dangerous assumptions. You assumed the Katarina was going to go back mid. Fine, I assumed that too. You assumed that whenever their top laner comes back, he's going to go top. That's fine. I assume that too. But you don't know where the Shyvana is, and you can't assume where the Shyvana is at this point of the game. If you do not see her, you do not know where she is. If you haven't seen her recently, you don't know where she will be. Right now, with all this darkness, there's no way in hell you know where she is. And what you do know is she's not mid. What you do know is she might be top lane, depending upon where Shen goes, but if she'd only be top lane if Shen wasn't going to be here, which means Shen's going to be bottom, which means you have to stop your push. So what you're doing now, backing off the wave, is very smart. You're waiting until you see someone. This is excellent. And there's your Shen. And then you leave. Excellent. Very well done. You created pressure down here, which one of the ways you respond to pressure, like what was happening mid, is by creating pressure. Unfortunately, this is one of the worst matchups that's like someone could come to match you because you're not going to kill the Shen, for sure. And Shen has a couple of ways to get to that fight. You don't. So by running to that fight right away, you're doing the right thing. But it's, is it too late? No, it's not too late. You should get that. Good, good. There wasn't a whole lot that went on there. You kited pretty well. You rended early, but I think you also rended just for the CC. If not, again, you got to count your autos. You got to learn that damage. That's a really important part of Kalista. It's the same thing as Twisted Fate's cards. It's really important. Otherwise, you're going to let all those kills get away like earlier. Those 3 kills that walk out on you will walk out on you many times. And this is all their misplay. That Shyvana would definitely win on a fight that she could not win. There were like 4 people there and one of her. This is a mispositioning by you. You walk back into those bushes. You don't want to... Yeah, you completely disrespected those bushes. I know you were trying to kill the ward, but you saw their whole team was there, so that was a clear mispositioning issue. And you took a lot of damage for it and died for it. I don't think all of those kills are necessarily your fault, but definitely a couple of them are. And even if only a couple of them are your fault, that makes this also your fault. And by saying fault, I'm not like blaming you, saying like, oh, this is the reason you're like, you are the reason you're losing. I'm saying that these strategical things that you're doing have consequences, and if you can improve on these, you won't have these same issues, right? You won't put this gold disadvantage in the game. In fact, you'll probably gain an advantage. I'm not trying to come off as flaming. I come across as critical, that's good. If I come across as flaming, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to flame. I'm not in your game. I have no reason to hate you. Alright. So, I kind of know why you're doing this, but this is a very bad habit. You're clearing the jungle camp because you don't know where people are. But, again, start playing with your assumptions. Where do you think people will be? Well, they just took the inner bottom, which means that they're probably not going to be bottom soon, and if they are, they're going to be sending Shen after this wave is pushing, but it's actually not pushing right now. It's at a pretty stable spot, so they'll be grouping somewhere. This is a very safe spot for you to be farming. The odds of someone being there are low. Doesn't mean it's impossible, but the odds of someone being here are low. And you could set up for it, too. So you could put a ward over here at this time, because no one's probably here. They probably just left, you know. Safe. It's pretty safe. After you start drawing people down here, though, you need to be quicker about rotating to your team. After you saw that last time Shen came down here to contest you, to stop you, to prevent you from taking the turret, you need to know that and assume that's going to happen again. So be walking back to your team pretty much immediately so you can be there earlier for those fights and maybe prevent one more death and maybe get one more kill, whatever. But that's how you would manage this wave. Doing what you're doing now still gets you gold, but your gold as a team remains unchanged. This play gets you more gold as a team. Gold as a team affects these numbers. Gold on you doesn't. Rengar, right after he clears this red buff, is going to walk up to these Krugs and take these Krugs. But now he can't, because you just took them. So you're going for another coin flip here. Oh, but it's a very good coin flip because their team leaves. It's not really positioning issues that you have, but it's overstaying fights to an extent. I'm not sure exactly what to call this. It might be misjudging your damage, it might be misjudging their damage, but I'll still review this fight too. You're taking a lot of fights, and you don't need these fights. Professional play doesn't do this for a reason. Because they don't want these coin flips, there's no reason to be just sitting mid like this. You're denying your team as a whole gold, and they probably can't take this turret anyways because the Victor can just wave clear it. So you're not really preventing them from getting a turret. You're only here because you don't know where to be and you feel like this is safe. That's why you're here. That's not a good reason to be here. Whenever you take this fight, right, it's okay. It's okay that you take this fight because Shyvana, for some fucking reason, is walking away. She sees the Rengar, right? They're all going for the Rengar. Taking the fight now is fine. This is disrespectful. You stand right next to the dagger. And from there, I would have just taken the win and walked away. Cat cooldowns are coming back up because she Zhonya's and she walked back. You already got the Lulu ult, though. And you could turn potentially a little bit onto the Shyvana and then kite back. That's kind of what you do, but then you go in, you start chasing, cat cooldowns are back up, and she looks on you, and you kind of deserve it. Again, pay attention not necessarily to this as a bad thing, but look where your team's positioning. And now ask yourself, why do you think they're positioning like this? It's because some very important cooldowns haven't been blown, and some very important cooldowns for your team have been blown. Soraka already had used her silence, so if Katarina re-engages, she probably has like about 5 seconds until she can silence again. Victor already used his like little gravity slow thing and his ult, so he doesn't really want to go back in because he can't CC. He can't stop a Katarina ult. So they're both playing far back because, well, one, Katarina, and if you look at Katarina's health, it's not like she was low. Alright, the second thing, Shyvana still has ult. So they have all of this potential to get on you, and then polymorph and all this other shit too, right? And then you step up still, looking for these fights, which is kind of misjudging your team's cooldowns. Big three, what trades do you look for? That also means looking at your cooldowns, your team's cooldowns. What things do you have to work with? What are your tools? And this, of course, is also a positioning thing, but this was more like you sacrificing yourself because you don't know cooldowns. And this is kind of similar to the fight you took over here. You seem to be going for these aggressive team fight plays. The first time I said that it was a little aggressive because they weren't following you. This kind of the same thing. The first time they should have been following you. The second time they shouldn't have. There's that polymorph. You know how you died over here? Because if they get anything after this, it's partly your fault. You've already put your team at a great disadvantage because you look for these team fights a lot instead of looking for objectives. You need to really work on how you trade. Big three will help you a lot there. You lost 2 turrets for that. You're now a considerable amount of gold behind. That's about 5k. Is it going to be 5k soon? No. And yeah, look at what you're ignoring whenever you do stuff like this. I know someone goes to catch this, but you haven't been catching these side waves pretty much at all. At this point in the game, actually, you've been keeping up in CS pretty well, but you've been denying it from your mid laner. Your mid laner is 85 CS because you've been sitting mid lane for such a long time CSing. You probably would do better if your mid laner just wanted to roam, but really, you lost your tower, so it's not like you're rotating mid out of a lead. You're rotating mid out of kind of like fear, like they're going to gank you or something. So you'd be putting your mid laner in a worse position because you're behind whenever you're rotating mid like this. You need to make sure you manage this wave. That's a really big thing that you can work on. And not only manage this wave, but know to catch minion waves, because whenever you're farming Krugs, that's not helping your team. You ignore this wave over here, and you're ignoring bot wave. After that one time you attempt to shove down and Shen showed up, you just were like, I'm never doing that again. Yeah. Okay. So here's my second common lesson that I talk about. And I already gave you like the big 3 lesson, but now I'm going to give you the counting lesson. The counting lesson is pretty important, and it's something that's very similar to positioning whenever you think about it. But counting, you count 2 ways every time you play an engaged champion before you go in. And for some reason, you're playing Kalista like an engaged champion. So we're going to count like an engaged champion. First way you count is, what is the minimum amount of people on your team that can join you? If you look here, the minimum amount of people that can join you is between 0 and 1, depending upon how far you go in. Between 0 and 1. That's the minimum amount of people that can join you. So you have 1.5 people on your team for whatever happens over here. 1.5. All right. Second thing you think about, what is the maximum amount of people for the enemy team that can be here? Well, let's take a second here and look at the map. All right, I don't see anyone on the enemy team there, or over here, or over here. That's all the vision we have to work with. So the maximum amount of people is 5. 1.5 versus 5. That's what you need to be thinking before you even try and do these trades. Before you try and hunt down these kills that are insane. Because you're just chasing these kills because you think you're strong. And, I mean, you got a lot of farm and you got some kills. But you know who else is strong? Well, like the Lulu's pretty strong. The Katarina's pretty strong. Shyvana's pretty strong. Shen's not necessarily bad either. He's got a lot of armor already. Yeah, Xayah's weak, though. But you're not necessarily stronger than anyone else on their team. And the way you take this fight, you already know you're going into a 2v1, and it turns into maybe a 2v2, and it's too late. Do you see who's here now? Let's do this counting again. Well, of course it changes as time goes on, but you were trying to force that when it was just a 1.5 versus potentially 5. Now you've got your 3 versus 4, and this is a fight that you chose. You chose this fight. Anything that happens here is your fault. And as the enemy, I would go to Baron. That is a very good call to go to Baron. And they get it. And they should be able to end with it. But seeing as how they don't, it looks like this game drags on for a bit. Alright. So one problem that people have for certain in lower ratings is how to end games. So maybe this is going to be a good example of that. One thing that you need, well, a couple of things actually. The best way you can respond to them doing Baron, if you cannot contest it, is exactly what Rengar did. Take away all of their waves to work with. This is going to give you like between a minute and 2 minutes extra of just burning their Baron while they have to clear minions up to your base. They can't just use a wave that's already there. So if you can't contest it, doing this is a very good idea. And he went down here basically while they were getting Baron, or just after. Either way, this is a good move for him to come down here. Now, if he gets a turret out of this, then it makes the like sacrificing the Baron like slightly better, but it's still not something that's that amazing. You don't trade a turret for Baron, but if you can get one afterwards because they don't respect you or whatever, then yeah, go the fuck for it. Great. But this is exactly how you'd want to respond to them getting Baron. You get rid of their waves. You get rid of their waves. This is exactly what you do. Your team as a whole has terrible vision, and you even have Sightstone. So it's not like your Soraka's not warding. It's just that you have a lot of redundant and pointless wards. These wards aren't going to tell you much. I don't talk a whole lot about warding on AD carry videos because your trinket is like your only tool to ward. And a lot of the times you save it. I do the same kind of thing, so you don't have to like walk into a bush. You ward the bush while you're fighting or something. Or maybe you save it to contest an objective, whatever. It doesn't matter. But you still do need to know how to ward. Because I think this is yours. Yeah, it probably is. Your wards are redundant, which makes them pointless. Now let's talk for a second here about what these wards would tell you, right? Because wards, the point of wards is to give you like the ability to counter a play or to not get picked or whatever, right? It sets up vision so you can make smarter plays. Well, what are they going to contest around here? What are you going to contest around here? What are you going to do with these two wards? Because you're not going to do Dragon. Dragon's not up for a long time. So they're not going to be here and you're not going to be here. If they're pushing mid, they're going to have to push all the way up to here. If they're pushing bot, they're going to have to push all the way up to here, right? So they're not going to be rotating between river. And even if they were rotating between river, you have two wards here that show you the exact same thing, which, by the way, they both show you nothing because nothing's going to happen over here. They're not going to rotate between this because they're going to push up this wave and they're going to rotate over here. And this ward already catches them. So these wards are pointless. Whenever you're setting up wards, this is using the map and assuming where people are going to go. And then beyond that, your pathing of like what these wards will see, you don't understand that they see the same thing. Because you're not taking a fight here, so you don't need the ward in both brushes. If you're going to ward one of these, just ward one of these. And by the way, at this point in the time, don't ward either of them because it doesn't tell you anything. But this is the reason why your map is so dark. People don't know how to ward. People don't know how to ward. You can put down a trinket, but that does not mean you're warding. This is a terrible spot for a ward because it's, for starters, redundant. Secondly, contesting nothing. Defending nothing. Setting up for no plays. All the same thing. This is incredibly disrespectful. You're going to die. The Shen ulted instead of killing you. Oh, but you still died. Yeah, your map awareness is terrible right here. You don't have any ability to assume where the enemy team is going to be. That's partially by your wards. It's also by you staying for Scuttle. Dragon wasn't going to be up for ages, so it's not like you needed to Scuttle for that. You were just taking Scuttle because you thought it was safe, and it wasn't. This is the same thing as taking Krugs. It's the same thing as just sitting mid. You're taking things because you think it's safe. Now, how do you predict where the enemy is? You guess what they want to do, and what would you want to do in this situation? Maybe that's not the best example, but what should someone do in this situation? Well, they're going to group for turrets. No shit, right? They're going to group for turrets. They're going to group for these two turrets because they're both inners and they have Baron and you have no wave clear, right? Or hardly enough, not enough to deal with what they have. So they're going to group for turrets. This is where they're going to be, which means they're all going to be on the bot side of the map. And you even saw at the start of this fight, there were two people down here, so you couldn't kite this way. And once one person showed up over here, you were dead. And for no reason. You weren't defending anything up here. Look what they did. It's easy to guess what people are going to do. It's easy to guess what people should do. They took both of these. Now, honestly, I know the game goes on a lot longer than this, but the game is over here. If they played it smart, the game is over here. It doesn't matter that it continues onwards. The game ends here. So I'm just going to summarize and go over some of your problems. So for starters, you're level 1, defend this. You're level 1, you need to acknowledge your power spike. You need to better understand the big three when it comes to trading. Rewatch that one section, I don't know when it is, and you will see again what you can do. You had one really good fight, but that's understanding resources, understanding when to trade. Another thing about when to trade is knowing where the jungler should be and knowing what kind of pressure is on the map. The Shen ult, the mid lane ult, you need to better respect where people should be. And a lot of the time, I'm guessing you just got lucky with when you went in, because I don't think you were respecting that very much. Your Soraka was, but you definitely weren't the way you were playing up. I do like how you have some aggression. You just need to worry about more when you do it. If you learn when to do it, with the amount of aggression that you have, you will see a lot of improvement in your laning. And you won't die to ganks because you'll start knowing when the jungler is there. Know when to trade and track people. Know where they should be based off of the clock, based off of where you've seen them. I didn't go into tracking based off the clock in this, and that's something else that's really simple. I talk about it in some other videos. You can watch one of my earlier ones if you want to learn a little bit about the clock. Your kiting is okay, your CSing is not. You need to worry about your free CS because you have a lot of free CS that you let go. Free CS not limited to just whenever it's uncontested over here, but also whenever you just kind of let it die to the turret. You don't know how to catch waves. Your rotations are sloppy. You just kind of ARAM mid after a point, and you hunt for team fights when there's nothing to contest and no reason to be there. Your positioning in team fights is okay. I wouldn't really complain too much about it. You went a little bit aggressive here, and I wouldn't even call what happened mid lane whenever I was talking about counting a team fight. That was you being greedy. You need to worry about your counting too, by the way. That's another thing. Your warding is something that you need to work on because, again, look how fucking dark your map is. Supports may build Sightstone, but they can have a maximum of 3 wards on the map at a time. And you could have a maximum of 3 wards on the map at a time. 2 from your yellow trinket and a pink ward. You want to really help your team out with something that's fucking as dark as this? Lower Elos, everyone should take zombie ward because that way you can get wards out. That way you can keep wards out. Because right now, you got fucking 4 wards out here. And you know what? Alright. 2 of them are from the Soraka, and no, 3 of them are. 3 of them are your supports ward. So apparently no one on your team knows how to ward. Right? Help your team ward. That'll do a lot for you. That'll do a lot for you. Because then whenever you count, you'll be more accurate. Whenever you're trying to assume where people are, so you don't have to fucking do Krugs, you'll be more accurate. It'll set you up to be able to make more proactive plays instead of hiding in your jungle or hiding mid lane. You also kind of overstay on the map. Your macro positioning is something of an issue. Whenever you were taking Scuttle, there was nothing to contest over here. Always be thinking about what you can get. What you can get always needs to just be turrets. Turrets is the thing you focus on in the initial start of the game because you're not going to really gank for kills as AD carry. As jungle, yeah, maybe. As mid lane, yeah, maybe. You're not really going to do that as AD carry, though. You can, and sometimes it works, but you really should not focus on that. You should be focusing on turrets. The purpose of AD carry, right, is supposed to be objective control. So start focusing on objective control. It's not necessarily team fight AD damage because a Talon can do that too. It's objective control. And you didn't have any objective control this game. You lost your turret, you lost top turret, you then lost 2 mid turret, you then lost bot turret and inhibitors. Pretty much every decision in the fights that you took, those coin flips, ended up losing something. Now, of course, you're not going to lose something out of it every time, but you will 50% of the time. And if you can make a play where it increases those odds by counting, maybe you have a numbers advantage. By checking what kind of cooldowns are available, maybe you have an advantage. By watching minions, maybe you have an advantage. You'll start to see that that coin flip becomes a lot more of like a six-sided die where like all the but six win. And then that sixth one is whenever for some reason someone's smurfing and just is like a god at this game and like outplays the shit out of you or something like that, right? Of course. That still happens. You still will lose. But you need to be able to play with strategy. So level 1, trading, counting, your objective control rotations, you're very greedy when it comes to fights, your micro positioning, you're not taking cues from your team whenever they're backing off. You need to work on your tracking of both jungler and as a macro sense where people should be. You need to work on what objectives you're contesting. You need to work on your warding. It's about 10 different things. All right, well, that's it for this. I hope some of this will be helpful. And again, I wish you the best of luck. I don't know if that might be the first time I said that, but I'm not trying to come across as like flaming you on anything like this. I genuinely think that once people know what they're doing wrong, they're able to fix it. Because a lot of these things, people just don't know what they're doing wrong. So whenever I'm like coming across as maybe a bit harsh here, know that like I do this, I am a mentor here because I want to help people improve. And I believe in my students. I've seen a lot of them succeed. So, work on these things, improve, succeed. All right, good luck.